Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Happy New Year's Eve. As we're recording this video, it is New Year's Eve of 2023. Hopefully all of you are having a good New Year's Eve and hopefully a good New Year's Day, starting off with 2024. Scary times. So, one of the first videos ending off 2023 is going to be the worst movies of 2023. I wanted to start off with my worst movies of the year so we can just slowly climb up to the best. So, you're going to be getting this, then my most disappointing movies of the year, most surprising movies of the year, then to cap it all off, top 10 best movies of the year. Then after that, you'll get my most anticipated movies of 2024. A lot of videos. I got a lot of videos racked up for all of you. Please watch. So, yeah, I want to make this clear. A lot of people see a lot of controversy when it comes to worst lists of the year. Now, it's not us bashing filmmakers, it's not us bashing cast members, it's not any of that. We're just sharing our experience with these movies. We paid money to watch these movies. Either we went to the theater to watch it, we rented it on Prime Video, we rented it for streaming. Now we are giving you our feedback on our experience. If you pay for a movie to watch it, you should be allowed to give your thoughts on the film and your experience. Either you loved it or you hated it. That is not we are making these videos just to show you our experience with these films because the movies I'm about to share are movies I just did not like of this year, and I just wanted to show you my experience with the film. We are not bashing anybody. We are just simply showing all of you our experience with the film. That is all we are doing, but some people don't seem to notice that, and some people think we only do that to bash filmmakers and cast members. We do not do that, and I wanted to get that all out of the way because there's a huge controversy about that. And I'm not. I appreciate people making the films. I'm gonna say that now before I even get to my list. I appreciate that these guys made films, that they were passionate towards these films. These were the films that they wanted to make. I'm grateful for that they made a film. But these films that I'm about to talk about, I just did not care for. With that all out of the way, I hopefully all of you understand that. If you don't, then I'm sorry. Don't be that one dick on the internet saying like, "Oh, you're just doing this to bash the internet." I'm not doing that. These are just my experiences with these films. Now that I'm all done with that, let's get with my top 10 worst movies of the year. Coming in at number 10. Now, just because this movie's on my list does not mean I actually, despise the film or hate the film. This is just a film that kind of offends me more than I do hate it. And that is The Exorcist Believer. Now, I'm gonna get this all out of the way. I'm not the biggest Exorcist fan. I do like the first Exorcist. I appreciate what that film did for its time. But that movie's never really scared me. I don't think that's the scariest movie of all time. And I've said this before when I did my review series on The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a film franchise that should have never became a series. The Exorcist should have been a one and done, should have never had sequels. But then that's also coming from a guy that loves The Exorcist 3. That is my favorite Exorcist film. God help me, apparently. And when I heard that they were making this film, I did not have a lot of faith in it. The fact that the people that were making the very controversial Halloween H40 trilogy, which I do like actually, and which became one of the more mixed responses for a horror trilogy. I basically love that entire trilogy, but I don't think that crew fits The Exorcist, and this movie definitely shows that. I don't hate this film. I could see myself rewatching this movie. I'm interested to see what they'll do with the trilogy, but that's one of my issues with this film. This movie is supposed to be a setup for a brand new Exorcist trilogy. What does this movie set up? This movie seriously sets up absolutely nothing. The movie just ends to where it oh, one of the girls died and one girl lived, and the movie just ends with her in a classroom, and then it shows the Exorcist Believer title, and it plays that classical Exorcist song. What the hell does that set up exactly? And also, why bring back one of the legacy characters from the original film where you get the mother? I forget her name. I'm sorry that I forget the name already. But you get the mom from the original Exorcist finally coming back. And it's not a good sign when your actress says that she wanted no part with this film. Months before the film even came out, she said she wanted no part of it. She did not want to be part of this film. She knew that this film was going to be horrible. They just kept throwing money at her. She said no. They threw more money at her. She said no. They tripled her paycheck, and she still said no. And in fact, she even said that is the most money she has ever been offered for a role, and she still said no. If you give her more money than she's ever gotten for a role and she still denies it, that means that your movie is going to be bad. And the fact that she only accepted it was because she's part of like a charity group that she's very passionate about. That's the only reason she agreed to be in it, is because Blumhouse agreed to fund that community, which I mean, that's a good reason to join, I guess, if they're gonna fund your community. But the fact that that's the way they did it, and then when you finally see her in the film, you can clearly tell that the filmmakers have no idea what the hell they're doing with this character. To where they brought her back, it's like, oh yeah, goody, we got her in. Oh, I don't know what to do with her. We'll put her in like 5 scenes, and then we'll just put her in the hospital for the rest of the movie. You can definitely tell they had no idea what the hell they were going to be doing with this film. And they had no idea what they were going to do with this character. And now, for the final thing that really, really bugged me for this film, this whole video is not going to be an Exorcist Believer review. I'm not someone that's particularly religious. I'm not the biggest religious guy in the world. I do believe in God, but I don't. I'm not that one guy that's like going place to place saying, "Oh, trust in God," stuff like that. I probably shouldn't say that. I'm gonna get in trouble. The way that they do the exorcism at the end of this film really angers me. And I'm not even particularly religious, to where it's basically a kumbaya, high-fiving your neighbors, and basically different parts of religions come together to get rid of this demon. Because other religions are so good at getting along, right? Right? Look, David, I know you were trying to show that in Halloween Kills that the community needs to band together to stop the evil. But this is just plain stupid. The fact that you're getting other religious people together to get rid of a demon makes no sense and is the stupidest idea I've ever heard for an exorcism. Have I ever told you the definition of insanity? In at number 9 is actually a film I kind of forgot was even that actually came out this year, and then I watched it and then I was like, "Oh, why did I watch this?" And that is Bird Box, the new Bird Box sequel spin-off. It was like Bird Box something else, but it's the new Bird Box film that came out on Netflix earlier this year that a lot of people didn't even knew that came out this year. You're lucky. Um, I don't love the original Bird Box, but I do enjoy it. It's a very interesting concept to where basically if you see something that's like in the world and you have to blindfold yourself, then you'll end up like killing yourself or something like that. I haven't seen the original Bird Box in a very long time. But the fact that I heard that this film even came out, I was like, what? Why haven't they advertised this movie? I did not watch a trailer. I did not watch anything. I did not see a plot synopsis. I didn't see anything. I went into this movie blind. No pun intended. And to where I watched the film, and then you go, wow. Why did they make this film? Is my question, to where I did not care for any of these characters. They take the concept of Bird Box and basically just ruin it because it's basically just like, oh yeah, you know that cool concept of Bird Box? We're gonna completely just shit on it because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. I don't understand what this film is really supposed to be. You can definitely tell that the filmmakers have never seen the original Bird Box because this film feels nothing like that. That this film feels absolutely nothing like that, and it's like, what the hell were you doing? What the like the fact that they didn't advertise this film either shows that they did not have a lot of faith in the actual film. These characters I don't care for whatsoever. None of them are interesting. Can't remember any of their names. And they just get what the main issue with this film is that they just don't care about the Bird Box premise and basically just throw it down the gutter like it's a useless piece of crap. Number 8. Now again, I don't hate this film, but this is definitely a film I will never rewatch. And that is Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, one of the more disappointing films of the year. Now, I really enjoy the first Ant-Man film. That's one of the more fun MCU films, but it's kind of ruined with all the MCU stuff like thrown into there. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I don't care for that film either. That was more just like showing whatever happened to Scott after Avengers Infinity War, or where the hell ever he was in Avengers Infinity War. That was basically the point of that film. And I was really hoping this film would be better too, because you got Ant-Man and the Wasp being in like the quantum realm, stuff like that. You get Casey coming into the film, you get Kang as the main villain, and this is the big setup for Phase 5, and this film is supposed to set up what Kang is supposed to be. and they make Kang look like an absolute pussy, to where he does not seem menacing, he does not seem scary, he does not seem like a cool villain, he does not seem menacing whatsoever, to where he's defeated by Ant-Man, of all people. And Ant is the person that defeats him. If Ant-Man can defeat Kang, I cannot imagine what Thor is going to do to the guy. It's a weird idea. What I would have rather did at the end of the film, to where Kang comes into the world with Scott, but then he's like somewhere else, and then the movie like leaves you on a cliffhanger. It's like, where's Kang? That's what I would have rather did. But of course, now with the Jonathan Majors issues, we don't know what they're gonna do with Kang now, so this film could be goddamn useless at this point. Look, I don't hate this film whatsoever, but when you're setting up your film for the beginning of Phase 5 and setting up Kang as your new big bad of this universe, the new Thanos of the Infinity Saga, like the new multiverse saga, and like Kang is basically the Thanos of the multiverse saga, and they just don't make him menacing whatsoever. They make him just look like a wuss, to where he's not menacing whatsoever. And if anything, this is also a setup for Loki season 2, which is much better in my opinion. But that's not even a debate, really. But looking at, especially when you see the really mixed bag, what Phase 4 was of the MCU, like, you're really hoping the beginning of Phase 5 will be much better. Way better. But it's not. It started off with a whimper. And when you set up your film as the Phase 5, the beginning of Phase 5, along with Kang, it completely fails with that. Number 7. Oh boy. The Meg 2, The Trench, or whatever the fuck the title was. The Meg 2. I don't like the first film whatsoever. That is a film that I do not care for either. That is not a film I don't care for. I like the concept of a megalodon, basically just being kind of being like a Jaws type ripoff film. Sounds like it'd be fun, but the first film is not for me. And when I heard that they were making a sequel, I questioned it. I had no interest at first. I did not want to watch the film. Trailers did not sell me. I did not watch this movie in theaters. It wasn't until it premiered on Max. I decided to give this film a shot. I had not seen any reviews. I had not read any reviews. I just like, oh, I thought this film was going to be bad either way. So what's the point of reading reviews? And man, oh man, I wish I did, because this film. Are we sure this is a sequel to Meg? Because this feels like more like a spin-off. Because how do you mess up the concept of Jason Statham fighting a megalodon? They do that. I think they do that decently in the first Meg, but in this film, it's Jason Statham versus a big shark for 15 minutes. I was really upset about that too, because like, oh, it could be like a fun concept to where, oh, there's like apparently a bunch of Megs out there, and Jason Statham's gonna take him out. But we fight a giant octopus for the entire movie, and then the filmmakers are like, oh, this is supposed to be a sequel to the Meg. I forgot about that. Let's quickly CGI a giant shark at the end of the 15 minutes of the film, and basically the entire trailer of this film showed the shark. The trailer for this film showed the shark the entire film. Uh, why? What was the point? Number 6. Oh boy. Another Netflix film. Another Netflix film made it on this list. Heart of Stone. Now, Heart of Stone could have been so much better, because I actually thought this could be a fun film. You get a Netflix film with Gail Gadot, and it's like it's supposed to be some sort of like 80s action film, basically, from what I heard. How do you mess up that, right? The characters are horrible. I don't care for them. And you want to know what this entire film is? It's basically a ripoff of Mission Impossible. And I just watched them for the first time this year for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And when you watch this film after watching all of those films, you can definitely tell the same type of things in this film. Where you watch the entire Mission Impossible movies in July, and whatever the hell this movie came out, I can't even remember the release date. And then you watch that and you go, this is basically Mission Impossible with Gail Gadot in the lead role. And the action I guess it's fine. There's a few good action sequences here and there, but they're nothing to write home about. And this entire movie has so much CGI and green screen, which probably shouldn't be a surprise since it's a direct streaming movie. But why that bad though? Like Jesus, like there's one film that has worse CGI that I'm about to get to, but the CGI in this film is just bad. The characters are nothing to write home about. It, like I said, it's basically Mission Impossible with Gal Gadot in the lead role with a generic story. Coming in at number 5 is probably the worst superhero film of the year, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This is the conclusion to the DCEU, not with a bang, but a gigantic whimper. Uh, now, I think the first Aquaman is fine. It's an okay film enough. But when I heard the sequel was coming out, I was like, okay, I guess we're getting it. But after delay, rewrite, reshoot, behind the scenes drama with Amber Heard and all that, I lost faith in this film. Trailers kind of sold me on the film, I'm not going to lie, because when I first saw the trailers, I was like, you know what? Maybe this film won't be so bad after all. But oh my god, I have never been so bored watching a DCEU film in my life. Where I was sitting there the entire time, and once, me and my friend, I went with my good buddy, we were sitting there in the theater, literally doing this the entire movie. And after like one sequence of the film, which was actually kind of badass, I'm like, okay, this movie's probably almost over. I take out my phone, I hide it so I don't blind anybody. I check my phone. 50 minutes left of the goddamn movie. 50 minutes. I've never been so bored watching a film. The only thing that really saves this film is Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson's chemistry. Those two's chemistry are great, and that's the best part about this movie. But the CGI, it's kind of all over the place. But the movie is visually stunning. I think the visuals are fine, but the CGI is not great. There's like a bunch of action sequences I just don't care. The lore of like the Black Trident is basically the lore that we learned in the first Aquaman. It's like what? And this movie, dear Lord, is way too goofy to where I think the first Aquaman does have goofy parts, but it kind of balances with pretty good action. But this film, you can just tell that Jason Momoa was just fucking around the entire film, and to where it's like, what the hell was he doing on set? Why did someone tell him to just like just bring it down a little bit, please? Why did no one on set do that? But this is the film that's going to be known that closed out the DCEU, and I have to live with the fact that it's the final DCEU film, and I don't like that. Number 4, Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, Skinnamarink Doo. What the hell was this? Skinamarink. Now, I had not heard about this film before. About apparently this film came out in January. Actually, I had not watched it. It was playing in select theaters. I was not one of those few that got to see it in the theater. And I saw a few reviews for it, but there's like only one source that I saw this from, and he said that this was not his type of film. I thought it would be my type of film though. And when it finally came out on Shudder, I checked it out, and this film is not for me whatsoever. Now, I will say this. I appreciate the director trying something. You can definitely tell he's very passionate about this film. You can definitely tell this movie was very, very low budget. This film was only made for $15,000, which is not a lot of money to make a film, but you can definitely tell the filmmaker used it wisely. And I can definitely tell the director of this film is going to go on and do great things in his future. He's going to go on and direct greater films with a bigger budget. You can definitely tell he is because he has the better ambitions of other directors. But this film is just not for me. To where the 90% of this film is basically just still images. To where you got like public domain cartoons just playing in the background, VHS looking and shitty audio type VHS type film with public domain cartoons playing in the back and just still images. That is 90% of the film. And the film that does like actually have talking in the film, it has kind of like subtitles, and sometimes it doesn't, to where you have to fill out yourself, to where it's just like, I don't know what the hell they said, so I'm assuming they said, shish kebab, I guess. I don't know. What basically this film is basically every child's nightmare, to where This film is to where there's two kids, their parents have vanished, they don't know where they've gone, there's no doors, there's no windows, there's no anything. And all there is just the TV playing with public domain cartoons for just for background noise. And there's a creepy figure in the darkness talking to them. Like, is there actually legit kind of creepy moments in this film? For sure, I will admit there's a few things in here that I was like, oh god, that's actually kind of terrifying. Especially the part to where it was like, like to where I thought it was just going to be another still image, and it slowly zooms in on the stairs, and then all of a sudden you hear, "Come here." Like, that's like a legit creepy moment, and that's very good filmmaking there. That's a pretty good jump scare there. But I just don't think the execution of this film, it just does not work for me. This film is clearly not for me. I'm glad that other people enjoyed it. There's so many people on the internet that really praise this film to where I just didn't understand it, but I'm glad a lot of you people liked it. I'm glad that the director is thankful for that. I'm proud of the director for making a film, but this film is just clearly not for me. But I am glad that other people enjoyed it. The film is just not for me. Oh boy. Jason Statham, you're in another movie on this list. Jason Statham made two movies that ended up on my list this year. And the next film is Expendables 4. I don't know what this film was. Now, I had not seen the Expendables films before. I had only checked them out this year when this movie was coming out, so I thought the trailers for this film looked decent. They looked fun enough. And my dad is a big fan of the first movie, and I watched the first film, and I was like, holy shit, that movie was actually kind of badass. And then you get the second movie, which is even more badass, in a film I like more. Expendables 3, not so badass, but it's kind of fun. To where Expendables is a fun action franchise, to where it's basically going back to the old roots of like 80s and 90s action films, where you get classic 80s and 90s action stars coming into a film and making a 2000s action film going old school style. Actual explosions, actual cars, actual bullets, actual fighting. Where could this franchise go wrong? And then they come out with this film, to where I don't know where this budget went. This movie had a budget of $100 million. Where the hell did that budget go? Because this film looks like a goddamn fan film. This looks like a guy on the internet got like a few $1,000 to make a Expendables fan film, made it because 100% of this film is a green screen, to where there's like a simple shot of this film to where Sylvester Stallone's character goes to Jason Statham's house, and like he opens the door, he's like, "Oh yeah, this guy took my ring at the bar, let's come to the bar." And you can clearly tell there is a green screen behind them. Where did your budget go? Because apparently you can't even afford to go outside for 5 fucking minutes. Did this budget just go towards the actors because they're big names like Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Megan Fox, and 50 Cent? What the fuck? Anyways, Megan Fox, I will admit, was pretty cool in this movie, but I did not come to this movie to watch Megan Fox. I came to watch Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham kill a lot of ass. First off, Jason Statham is in this movie a lot. He does great in this film. Jason Statham is great in almost every film that he's in. And spoiler alert, Sylvester Stallone is only in this movie for 15 minutes. Because apparently, this film was advertised as the final Expendables movie with Sylvester Stallone. Thank the Lord. Because apparently, we get to know him for a few minutes in the beginning. They kill him off like the end of the first act, and at the final act of the movie, he shows up and he saves Jason Statham. Like, oh yeah, like we definitely didn't expect that. Like it's like, oh yay, yeah, Sylvester Stallone's not dead. Oh, yeah, it was predictable as shit because I was sitting there with my buddies. We all went to this movie because we're all big Expendables fans. Because some of my buddies were big Expendables fans. They wanted to watch this movie with me. My buddy, he's sitting next to me. He taps on my shoulder and he goes, "How much do you want to bet?" And this was at the first 15 minutes of the film. He goes, "How much do you want to bet that Sylvester Stallone fakes his death?" And then he comes back in the final act of the film. And look what the fuck happened, apparently. Now, I will say this. Is this movie watchable for how bad it is? Yes. Is it fun seeing Jason Statham being in an action movie killing a lot of people? Yes. That is fun. But Jason Statham, I love you to death, but can you please be in better movies? Because you ended up on two of the worst movies of the year for me. And you're gonna be a beekeeper in January. And that movie comes out in January and it's an action film. Jason Statham, don't break my heart, please. And number 2 for me is Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. I'm a huge Pet Cemetery fan. I love that original film. That is one of my favorite horror movies ever. That is the only horror film that has truly scared the absolute piss out of me. The sequel, it's very goofy for my taking. I hated the remake for a while, but on this prominent rewatch, I enjoyed it more. And especially after watching this film, I like it more. Now, when I heard that this film was announced, I was not excited for it whatsoever, especially when it's a prequel to the remake of all movies. They had to do the remake, which I'm glad they did the remake now because the original doesn't need a prequel. And Paramount only made this film is because they wanted to retain the rights of Pet Sematary because apparently they need to make a Pet Sematary movie every other year just to retain the rights. So they rushed this film into production just so they can keep the rights of Pet Sematary because they're greedy fucks. And they sent it straight to Paramount Plus, which is also not a good sign because they're not the best streaming subscription out there. And this film, it it's nothing I want from a Pet Cemetery film. Is there some good ideas here with like Timmy Baterman and seeing him more? Like that little tiny little story that we got in the original? Yes, but that doesn't need to be a huge drawn out 90-minute movie. And you think the movie only being like 90 minutes it would fly by? This movie was boring to where it felt like it was 2 hours long. And I would argue this is the worst this is the worst portrayal of Judd Crandall. I love Fred Gwynn in the performance, and the remake version is okay, but I don't love him. John Lithgow's a great is not a director, God, is a great actor, but I don't like his take on Judd Crandall. But this version of Judd makes that version look like a goddamn masterpiece because I don't like what they do with this character whatsoever. And to where they only have like a few scenes to where there's actual dead pets coming to life, and it's called Pet Cemetery, not Timmy Baterman, the movie. Oh, with Pet Cemetery. And the father's story about losing his son, I felt more for the original, and we only saw him for like 5 minutes. To where you're supposed to feel bad for this guy and kind of understand why he would resurrect his son, but I don't feel it. Like I'm supposed to feel bad for this guy, but I don't feel anything. Like that's how poor your writing is if you don't make me care for anything. But why is this movie number 2? Because it insults me as a Pet Cemetery fan. If this were just a generic, like, horror movie with just a guy that's killing people, this movie would be okay. But when you put Pet Cemetery in the title, and it's supposed to be a Pet Cemetery prequel, it offends me as a Pet Cemetery fan. But there's no denying what my number 1 is. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. You remember when at the beginning of this video when I said I'm not trying to bash the filmmakers or anything, I'm not trying to bash the cast? This is the one exception. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is absolute dog shit, to where I knew that this from the get-go was going to be horrible. When they announced this film, I thought it was a joke that some guy on the internet was making. It's like, oh, just imagine if this film actually came out. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of funny. But then when the closer the month January comes and you find out this is an actual film coming out, you're like, what the fuck? Like, why make this film? Like, just looking at the poster, you're like, oh yeah, this movie's gonna be bad. And January comes. I didn't get to see it in the theater because it wasn't playing in my theater. People who got to watch it said that it was one of the worst films of the year, one of the worst ideas of the year. I did not want to watch it. But if I did not have my horror channel, I probably would never watched it. Comes to Peacock, and I watch it. And I have never been so bored watching a horror film like this because the directors of this film are apparently making a sequel, a Peter Pan, and a Bambi horror film. Lord help us. And the characters are also horrible to where I don't give a shit about any of them. To where the writing is horrible as well, acting atrocious, and the goddamn Winnie the Pooh and Piglet outfits look like you could have bought them at Spirit Halloween or Walmart. Like, Piglet? That's not Piglet. That's a guy wearing a pig mask. Winnie the Pooh, I guess I can see it, but they look like hillbillies, like from fucking Wrong Turn, and I hate Wrong Turn. Like to where their outfits look like something they bought at Spirit Halloween, and they look like something from Wrong Turn. That is how cheap they look and how stupid they look. And we are supposed to be getting a sequel to this movie. And you know when they posted the image for Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 on the internet, what he's supposed to look like? Yeah, he looks worse. I'd rather deal with the dollar store version. That is it. That is the top 10 worst movies of 2023 for me personally. Now, please don't take offense to this. These are just movies. I paid to see these movies. I paid to watch these movies. Some of these movies I actually bought. I feel I should share my opinion on the film and my experience, so please do not take offense to that. But thank you all so much for watching this video, and if you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. Happy New Year and Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. Hopefully all of you have a great 2024. And until my next video, I'll see you all next time.